Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today is part 2 of my annual perfect offseason plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2026 offseason. In part 1, we covered everything from roster cuts to a blockbuster trade to NFL free agency, setting the table for today's show, which is going to be a 7-round mock draft with multiple trades. If you guys haven't watched part 1 yet, I would recommend you guys go watch it right now. I'll put the chip to that in the top right above me right here on screen so you guys can check that out, because a lot of the context of the picks that I'm making on today's mock draft come from the free agency moves and the roster cuts and all the different stuff that I do in part 1. So make sure you guys go check out part 1 if you haven't already. But today it is a 7-round mock draft with multiple trades. The Steelers go into this mock draft with a number of draft picks at their disposal, and today I'm going to be making a lot of moves to make the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit more bright. Now, a little bit of a quick reminder that, this perfect offseason plan is not necessarily a predictions video. This is more of an idealized version of how I would love for the Steelers offseason to play out. So there's going to be some players here maybe in this mock draft that I'm expecting to probably go maybe a little bit higher than I'm ending up taking them, but I am taking them in the general range that I think that they could fall to if the board falls the way that I'm hoping that it could. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. If we get 1,000 likes on today's show, we'll actually do an off-season predictions video. This is my perfect off-season plan. If you guys want me to actually predict what the Steelers are going to do, we can do another video like that on the channel. If we get 1,000 likes on today's show, I'll do a full off-season predictions video for your Pittsburgh Steelers if you prefer that style of content. But I just want to remind you guys that in part 1, we did trade TJ Watt to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know a lot of Steelers fans that love TJ Watt like I do are going to want a first-round pick for TJ Watt. But just the reality on the ground is TJ has had the last 4 years, he's missed games with injuries. He's 31 years old. He's still a very expensive player, and he's on the downward, he's on the decline in terms of his athleticism. So I don't think you're going to be able to get a first-round pick out of him. I think a good, and fair compensation for him is a second-round pick. I think for a team like the Buccaneers that is trying to win now, I think this is something that they would be willing to do as well. So this adds a second-round pick to the Steelers' total here, which means we're going to have 6 picks in the top 100 to start this mock draft. 1 in the first, 2 in the second, and then 3 in the third. Then you have a total of 7 picks on day 3 as well, 2 fourths, a fifth, 2 sixths, and 2 sevenths, rounding out to 13 total draft picks for the Pittsburgh Steelers to start here in this mock draft. So that obviously gives the Steelers a lot of opportunities to fill out this roster with young talent and set the table for the future here in Pittsburgh under new head coach Mike McCarthy. So without further ado, let's kick off this mock draft here with a trade up in round 1. I'm going to have Omar Khan pick up that phone, call Jerry Jones in Arlington, Texas, and trade up to the number 12 overall selection here. This is going to be the trade details. I'm going to trade pick number 21 and then one of our second-round picks, number 56 overall, to move up to number 12. And I'm going to go and get, hopefully, the future number 1 receiver for the next 15 years here in Pittsburgh, which is Makai Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. And I think that Makai Lemon's a special player, man. Like, he's not going to be like the craziest tester at the combine, but this guy is just such a good football player. He tempos his routes to perfection. His foot quickness and change of direction are incredible. His hands, for somebody of his size, like vice grips for hands. He can win on the outside. He can play in the slot. He reminds me so much from a physicality to an athletic profile standpoint of Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. And, these guys, he reminds me a lot of Jackson coming out of Ohio State, who, by the way, ended up going number 20 overall to the Seattle Seahawks. So maybe even Makai could fall to the Steelers, and they don't have to trade up this much to go get him. But, man, Makai Lemon is getting a lot of traction in NFL draft communities right now, and for good reason. This guy's a hell of a football player. I think he could be a day 1 contributor for the Steelers offense and be an excellent complement to DK Metcalf here in Pittsburgh for the next half decade. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Is Makai Lemon worth trading up for if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or no down there in the comment section. Obviously, I believe that he is worth trading up for, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments for today's pinned question. Just a second here. I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today. Well, I tell you about our sponsor. Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments. You guys have been asking for merch here on Steelers Talk for a long time. We're finally getting into the merch game, and you guys can join the Steel City drinking team and get an official t-shirt to commemorate that by going to chatsports.com/pitgreen. That link is down there in the comments and description. It'll take you to our website where you guys can make a purchase today for $29.99. The design, I helped the design team here at Chat Sports come up with this myself. You got the green, you've got the gold lettering, and it's also limited edition. This is only going to be available this year before St. Patrick's Day, and then it's gone forever. All right, guys? So if you want one of these, you got to strike while the iron is hot. And my bosses tell me, guys, the more that we sell, the more merch opportunities we're going to get here on Steelers Talk. So when they make big moves, if they draft Makai Lemon, we could do something fun in terms of the merch game with that draft pick. We can do a lot of fun stuff here at Chat Sports and here at Steelers Talk if we can push this product. So if you guys want to get your Steel City drinking team t-shirt today, get yours today, chatsports.com/pitgreen to make it happen. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. And with that, let's get back to the mock draft where we're at pick number 46 here in round 2. And I'm going to take the safety out of Oregon, Dillon Thieneman. And this is somebody that is getting actually a bit of first-round buzz right now. But I think that, with safety being a lower value position, all those different things, there's multiple good safeties in this class. It's possible that Thieneman could fall to this pick, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the defensive side of the ball to pair with Deshaun Elliott, Jalen Ramsey. He could even be a big nickel once Ramsey eventually moves on. I did bring in Alohi Gilman in free agency in my perfect offseason plan, but I think Thieneman and Gilman would really duke it out in camp to see who would be the better safety heading into the year. Really, really good football player, man. He's got good size. He takes on blocks well as a safety in the run game, good tackler, and he's got the athleticism to play out in space as well. So I think Patrick Graham's defense, you got to be able to cover a lot of ground and tackle. I think Thieneman does both of those very, very well, and I think he could do that as early as year 1. So now let's trade back into round 2 here and get another second-round pick and trade up, and I'm going to move up to the number 58 overall selection and give up 2 of our third-round draft picks, number 76 and 99, to move back into the second round with the 49ers at pick number 58. And with this draft selection, I am going to be taking another wide receiver here, somebody that is going to be an electric yak threat for Aaron Rodgers with those quick dump-offs on screens, all those different things, not to mention be one of the best punt returners in football in year 1 of his NFL career, and that's Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver out of Georgia. Now, Branch, at times on his film, looks a little bit like Tyreek Hill in terms of his ability to make catches and then just make people miss. His change of direction, his acceleration, and his long speed are special. His vision with the ball in his hands are awesome. Now, he does have, some deficiencies in terms of he likes to catch the ball with his body and not his hands. He likes to, kind of chest catch it a lot. He also jumps when he catches the football a lot, which kind of puts him in a bad position. He's not really smooth transitioning after the catch the way that you would like, but I think he's an underrated route runner. Georgia kind of used him as more of a true gadget piece, and that might be kind of his role early on in his career at the Steelers, but I think he's got the athletic juice to be a really good route runner at the NFL level as well. And eventually, if you move on from DK Metcalf and you got Makai Lemon, then you got Zachariah Branch, that could be a dynamic duo for years, and Branch can give you a lot of special teams of value as well on day 1. Then we get to round 3 here at pick number 85. I'm going to take a corner out of Florida, somebody that I've just gotten into his tape, and I've really enjoyed it. It's Devin Moore from Florida, and he was a highly recruited guy, long arms, big body type of guy, and that fits the Patrick Graham type of mold of cornerback, because remember, he comes from the Belichickian school of defensive play calling, and they like their corners big there in the Belichick defense. So I like Devin Moore in terms of the athletic fit and the body type fit, but also, his film from his past season here at Florida was really, really good, in my opinion. And he still has a little ways to go, and I do think that if the Steelers make this pick, it won't be to start him right away. In my perfect offseason plan, I bring back James Pierre. Brandon Echols is still on the roster, so Moore would be more of a developmental piece, but eventually when James Pierre moves on, or if he doesn't have a good season, Devin Moore could potentially be somebody that steps in future years as a really good CB2 alongside Joey Porter Jr. Now, why not, man? Let's make one more trade up here on at the start of day day 3, actually, at the top of round 4. I'm going to pair our pair of round 4 picks to just move up to 102 with the Las Vegas Raiders, give them an additional round 4 pick here. And I'm going to go out and take an interior offensive lineman that can be our backup center, as well as maybe a future solution at starting left guard, and that's Logan Jones out of Iowa. And if you know anything about Iowa offensive linemen, you know that they coach them up extremely well, there in Des Moines. And Iowa City, I should say. And Logan is somebody that's really tough. He played center for them, so he can back up Zach Frazier if he gets injured. But also, I think he projects pretty well as a guard at the NFL level as well. And with Isaac Seumalo coming back on just a 1-year deal, in my perfect offseason plan, Logan Jones could be on track to be the future starter at left guard with this selection. And I like this one quite a bit. Then we get to round 5. I'm going to take one of my favorite linebackers in this entire class, Bryce Boettcher, out of Oregon. He played center field for the Oregon baseball team. This guy, has great field vision, great hand-eye coordination. You have to have great hand-eye to play baseball. And, this guy, I think, is pretty well-built linebacker. Now, I do think he has a little ways to go in terms of his development. Not sure if he's going to be able to play right away, but in my perfect offseason plan, I'm keeping Patrick Queen, I'm keeping Peyton Wilson, I'm keeping Malik Harrison. Boettcher can learn and develop behind those guys for a year and then eventually work his way into the starting lineup in future seasons here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then around 6, I'll take a tight end here that I really, really liked here at Shrine Bowl here in Frisco, Texas this year. That's Dallen Bentley, the tight end out of Utah. Big guy, but he can run like a deer, and he's got very, very smooth athleticism for somebody of his size. Can get open, can run some good routes, and he can run after the catch. So I really like what he brings to the table. That size allows him to, be potentially a future wide tight end if Darnell Washington ends up leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers in future years. Bentley, his type is not Darnell Washington. He's not that big, but if you're looking for somebody to be that bigger tight end, to pair with Pat Freiermuth for the future, for whatever reason Darnell Washington doesn't work out here in Pittsburgh, Bentley, I think, plugs in immediately as a good tight end 3 that can develop behind Washington and Freiermuth. And then, if Freiermuth or Washington end up leaving the team in future years, I think Bentley could be an option that could be developed into a pretty decent piece. Then we get to round 6, and if you guys watched part 1, you guys know I'm bringing in Trey Lance as our backup quarterback this year. I'm going to go get his brother, Bryce Lance, the wide receiver out of NDSU. Long arms, big body, can make some awesome catches down the field. I'm not sure if he's going to make it to round 6, guys, if I'm being honest. I think when people turn on the film with Bryce Lance, they're going to be pretty impressed. Now, he's not all the way there yet. He's going to need a little bit of time to cook and develop, but with the Steelers bringing in Makai Lemon and Zachariah Branch, not to mention Romeo Doubs in free agency, you already have DK Metcalf. Lance isn't under pressure to play right away, man. Like, he can come in, he can develop, he can, try to, improve his skill set, at the NFL level. And then if he works out, he's a big body, athletic type guy that, maybe even with Trey Lance as his quarterback, could be, the brother combination here in Pittsburgh that could take the league by storm. Who knows? But, this is kind of one of those high upside, but kind of, low downside type of picks to make if he falls to in round 6. We'll see what kind of hype Bryce Lance gets here during the draft process. Then around 7, I'll go Taylen Green, the quarterback out of Arkansas. Listen, man, like, this guy can run like a deer. He's got good size, strong arm, but he's going to have to compete with Will Howard for a roster spot, because you got Aaron Rodgers QB1, Trey Lance QB2, Will Howard QB3, and Taylen Green is going to have to take that athleticism and take coaching pretty well if he's going to want to make the day 1 roster as this team's QB3. But he's got the tools that you look for, man. If he can take to coaching well here under Mike McCarthy and Tom Arth and Brian Angelico, I think that this is a good enough dart throw to make at the quarterback position late day 3. Then in round 7, hey, the Steelers have had pretty good luck taking edge rushers from Wisconsin in the past. Let's go with Mason Reiger, the defensive MVP at the Shrine Bowl. Right now, the consensus big board would allow me to take Reiger in round 7 at pick 237. And, when I watched him during Shrine Bowl practices, man, this guy just dominated all week, and I couldn't believe this guy wasn't getting more buzz. I mean, I remember when Nick Herbig, obviously he goes in round 4 back in the day, but, Reiger kind of reminds me of that a little bit, where he is just so good at getting after the quarterback, and I'm just, kind of left wondering why he's not getting more buzz, all right? I'm not saying he's going to be Nick Herbig. Herbig is an awesome player, but I think that this guy can immediately plug in as this team's edge 4, and maybe have some upside to rise up the ranks in his NFL career. But this is my mock draft here for this perfect offseason plan. We end up having 10 draft picks, moving up multiple times for players. Makai Lemon in round 1, Dillon Thieneman in round 2, Zachariah Branch trading up for him in round 2 as well, Devin Moore in round 3, Logan Jones in a trade up in round 4, Bryce Boettcher in round 5, Dallen Bentley and Bryce Lance in round 6, and then Taylen Green and Mason Reiger in round 7. So now to finish up today's show and this perfect offseason plan, let's take a look at the final picture here of what the results are from this perfect offseason in terms of what the lineups would look like for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2026 season. I think it's pretty darn good. Can take a look at the starting offense. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is your starting quarterback, but this time, instead of having Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, Adam Thielen, and MVS as your backup receivers, you got Romeo Doubs and Makai Lemon. Those are two legitimate route runners to pair with DK Metcalf. I think that opens up the offense a lot. On the offensive line, you got Dylan Cook, who played really well for you. Maybe that's Broderick Jones. There'll be a camp battle for that, but I think Cook would probably win it. You got Sayamalo back. You got the entire starting offensive line back from last year, so you get that continuity. You have Pat Freiermuth, who I think is a perfect fit for the Mike McCarthy offense. I think he'll be your tight end 1 next year. Then you got Jaylen Warren back as your number 1 running back. Then in terms of your second wave on the offense, you've got Trey Lance as maybe a future long-term option as your backup quarterback. He's still really young, still has a lot of arm talent, gets another year to work under Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. I think that's a great situation for him. But you got Will Howard as your QB3, Taylen Green as QB4. There'll be a camp battle to see who QB3 is. Kenneth Gainwell is back at RB2. That's huge. Caleb Johnson also coming back again at RB3. Connor Hayward as your fullback / tight end hybrid. Still got Darnell Washington as your wide tight end, your blocker. You get Dallen Bentley as your tight end 3. Zachariah Branch as a wide receiver 4 / special teams and punt return specialist. You still have Roman Wilson on the roster, so if he develops into a nice piece, he could be a contributor. Ben Skoranek as your blocking receiver will be back, and then you get Bryce Lance as a developmental wide receiver here in Pittsburgh. But then the second wave offensive line, obviously you still have Broderick Jones as a swing offensive tackle / guard. And also, like, if he loses the left tackle battle next year to Dylan Cook, I think he could be a trade candidate before the trade deadline. You could, swap him for a pretty decent draft pick in 2027. I still think that's a possibility. Spencer Anderson, he can be a swing guard / jumbo tight end like he was this year. Calvin Anderson, obviously back as a swing offensive tackle. And then you get Logan Jones as a backup center / guard, maybe a future option at starting left guard once Isaac Sayamalo hits free agency again in 2027. But then on defense, you've got Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig on opposite sides of the defensive line at outside linebacker. I think we saw in the short stint that those two played together when TJ Watt was dealing with his lung issue, that those two guys are more than good enough as a outside linebacker tandem. Then you get Cam Hayward and Derek Harmon returning at defensive end, and then you plug in DJ Reader, a legitimate nose tackle, to replace Keanu Benton. But Benton is still on the team. He is a rotational piece that I think would be absolutely lethal as a 4th defensive lineman in this group. You still got Daniel Ekuale as a really solid run stuffer behind DJ Reader. Y.A. Black returns as well, and you got Mason Reiger and Jack Sawyer as decent second wave outside linebackers. Then we get to the inside guys. I think Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson were put in some pretty tough spots under the Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin regime with kind of their older school approach to defense with a lot of single high stuff. They put their linebackers in some really tough positions. I think with Patrick Graham, he's going to put these guys in much better positions to succeed. And I think that, we could be looking at these two guys finally playing up to the standard that we've been hoping that they would play at over the last 2 years. But then if they don't, you do have Malik Harrison, who's a very good thumping type of, early down run defending linebacker. And then you're bringing in Bryce Boettcher, who I really like as well. Also, I just noticed I'm bringing in Boettcher and Thieneman, both Oregon Ducks that have some chemistry playing together in the same defense. I think that'd be pretty cool if they both become long-term starters here in Pittsburgh. But now we get to the secondary, speaking of Thieneman. I'm not going to put Thieneman in the starting lineup yet, but I do think that he would be competing with Alohi Gilman for that free safety spot. But you got Joey Porter Jr., James Pierre, same cornerback duo that had so much success at the end of last season on the outside. upside back in 2026. I think Jalen Ramsey can move back to that big nickel position that he's so good at, playing with instincts, not having to learn a new position in safety like he did last year. And then Deshaun Elliott, of course, will be back from his knee injury that he suffered last year. Then in the second wave there, if those guys get injured, you've got some pretty good options here. Brandon Echols played a lot for the Steelers this past year, played pretty well for somebody that I would consider like a really good backup. You got Devin Moore as part of the future in the secondary here in Pittsburgh. Corey Trice Jr. will be back next year. Dante Kent will be back next year. Maybe one of those guys sticks. But then you get Dillon Thieneman to compete for the starting free safety job with Alohi Gilman. And Sebastian Castro, I still think, has a chance to make this team next year and be a decent piece for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a UDFA out of Iowa last year that I really liked. Now, in terms of special teams, you've got Chris Boswell as your kicker. You got the punt god, Matt Ariza at punter, and Christian Kuntz as your long snapper. I think that's about as good as it gets in the National Football League if they can make it happen. But now it is the moment of truth. After 2 long videos breaking down my entire offseason plan and my idealized version of the Steelers offseason, grade it for me down there in the comments section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports and this year's beast, the perfect offseason plan here for 2026. I put in a crap ton of time putting this together every single year, guys. It's my favorite video that I make every single year. So if you enjoyed yourself here watching these last 2 videos, I greatly appreciate your guys' support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for more in-depth Steelers content like this all throughout the calendar year.